MG Rod back with you, and today we got more MGA Fastback for you. Let's get going. So I've been spending some time here working out how to tie in the packing shelf and the window frame and everything together to get some structure and be able to take some of this temporary stuff out of here and not have the outer pieces on here. And after a bit of playing around, I've figured out something I think is going to work okay. So we got the back of the packing shelf here. What I did was I put some 18 gauge pieces across here, put one across the middle, and it goes all the way back into here. And I welded it on here, and then we put a short piece here and here. And then I'll spot weld those right to this frame, here and here. And then we'll use these little pieces of like inner structure that I made that match this. Put two of them here, and we'll put one over here and one over here. And that will, once the window frame comes in here and spot welds, then that all connects everything together. And I'll probably go ahead and put a couple of plates here, tying the back of the hinge pieces back into here, because it's originally connected to another piece of inner structure. And MG felt that needed to be there, so I'll connect it to something. But I think overall, this gives it a bit more structure than what MG was originally putting in these things from the factory. So the next thing I'll be working on will be to get the actual piece of metal that I'm going to put in here for a packing shelf, which isn't going to be this piece, that I can go ahead and attach to here, probably temporarily with just either Clecos or pop rivets right now, because I still got to weld this out and grind it all. And I'm wanting to move forward with getting some of the structure in here before I actually go back and do that. So I want to be able to take this back out to work on that. So now I want to start on some of this inner structure here above the window. I think what I'm going to do is actually repurpose the old inner structure bow that was part of the rear window before, just moved forward here, and then rebuild the end of this so this actually comes in and drops in right up here, a little further forward, hopefully out of the way of anything I'm going to need for the side windows. So I went ahead and made the little end pieces here using the same method I did to make these. And now I've got this thing sitting in place where it's going to be, and actually plug welded it to the inner structure here. And now I'll save anything else on the inner structure here until I figure out exactly how the window is going to all come together here. But the next thing we need is to make another one of these pieces of inner structure here to span between here and here. So in order to make that, we need a couple of strips of metal, like these. But then they need to be bent, like this. So now we can take these and we can form these to fit, because there's going to be an ever so slight arc to it here. And then it's got to hit here, and then it's got to arc into there. And then we got to make another one, not quite matching, because it's actually going to be down here. And this thing's not going to be actually a square piece. It's going to be a weird shape. But next thing I'm going to do is do some stretching on this to get this thing arced to fit. It won't take very much at all on this one. And I'll take just a hair more near the top than at the bottom. Let's go see if it fits. All right, so as we can see, I need to Do a little more stretching here to get this thing to actually come down and hit this, and then a little bit more to get this to come down and hit that. Now we're sneaking up on it. Now in this case, this part of the inner structure is actually a little bit below where the actual body is going to be. Same with this. But this is going to be right in line with the body. So that's why we want this to support the window opening and hold it where we want it, but then attach to that. So it's actually going to pull away from the skin of the body here and here. So there we are, really close to what we want right there. Need some light trimming here, so this will come all the way down where I want it. And then basically make this one match that. And then we can move on with making this piece inner structure. So we got the other one there to match that. Now, since this one here is actually coming down this way some, and is at a slightly different angle than what this one is because of the roll, I actually had to do some shrinking on this edge here and here to keep it parallel. So now, just need to figure out how I'm going to hold this all in place, and then I can make a pattern to go across here for the top piece. So after setting the window in place here, I had to have myself a little rethink on the shape of this. So this was sitting way too low. I had to get this to twist up and be a lot higher here and make this thing actually twist up and then back down to give me enough room for that side window. All right, so I decided to tackle this one in a slightly different way to make it work. In order to keep this thing at the same width and keep all the shape and everything, I went ahead and put a little piece on the end and the middle. Then I'll get the shape I want, and then I'll just fill in between. Seems like the best way to go on this particular one. So I decided on this particular piece, it actually ended up in the long run being better for this to be a bit narrower than all of these. So I went ahead and took it back apart, trimmed these things down, and took about 3/8 of an inch or so out of it. I think that'll give me a little bit more room to work with on the window, but still give me the support I'm needing. So I went and did my usual trick of just kind of working and not filming anything. So went ahead and got all this put together and welded up. Now when you go and weld something like this, because I'm welding full length twice, it's going to move. It's going to pull a lot of that shape back out of it, and it's going to change shape. So then you got to sit there and basically put it in a vise and tweak on it and pull on it to get some of the shape back into it, because some of that it'll flatten out some basically. But we got it all tweaked and twisted and back into position, and the other side's already done. So I got these things tweaked a little bit to where it needs to be and got them tacked in place. I didn't get the best fitment here because I was trimming this up, and by the time I finished bending them, they come up a little shy here. So rather than just welding across there, I'm going to do just like the factory did. Make little patterns here, put a little plate in behind there, just like they did on all the other joints. And I got one on this side already done. And we'll come over here, get in there with my little spot welder, and we'll spot weld these things in. Not that we're trying to be factory, but hey, it makes it a lot more like the factory, which I do prefer to do things that way when possible. So we'll do that, and I'll continue to do that on all four corners, and then these things will be in there nice and solid. Actually, the next step will be making the bow goes across here, which I actually already started it on that as well. So I've got a good starting point on it, where I went ahead and put 4 pieces in there to try to hold the shape of it. Then I'll fill these 3 in the middle when I go weld it out. So that'll go in here, and that'll establish the upper portion of the window opening. I still got some tweaking to get it to fit like I want it to. And then once I get it to fit, we'll probably end up taking a couple more pieces like this and running them between these two for support. So at this point, I decided it was time to go ahead and cleco the window frame in place and work on the side window frame. And I put the front piece in here and made it curve at the top, and got it actually in position that'll show where the post and everything is going to be at, and put the fender back on and covered it with the cardboard to get an idea if the lines still look right, because while I was doing all this, I've made minor adjustments throughout the process to actually bring, like I brought the corners of the windows down a little further. I changed the position of this a little bit, and I wanted to see, does it still work? And I am mostly happy with it, except I do want to make some minor adjustments to the shape of this side window here, because right now the curve in it matches the window. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the curve out of it right here and a little bit of it right here to kind of give it a better look. I can take some of that out, and the seal going in here will take up that slack, and I won't have any problems with it sealing. So it'll be a fine line there. But I'm also seeing that right here, it seems like I think I took the corner of this window down a hair too much, and now it's flattening out a little bit here. This actually needs to raise up just about 1/4 of an inch, and that gives me the line that I'm actually need across here. So a couple ways I can do that. One is just adjust it from like about in here out, or I can raise the whole thing up here 1/4 of an inch and see what that does to this line. As long as this line still looks good and it still takes this out, I can do that too. But that's going to require me changing some of my inner structure that I just finished putting in. But that's all right. That's why I'm doing this. I probably should have done this about a week ago, before I got quite this far along. But I was pushing hard last week on this, and that's why you've been seeing so many videos, because I was trying to see if I could potentially get it far enough along to take it to the Good Guys show here in Columbus, which I realized that I wasn't going to be able to. Because even if I got this stuff to where I wanted it, there was too much of the other things, like the fuel system and the fact that that pump wasn't readily available. Every place that had it couldn't get it to me in the time frame that I needed it. And besides, they were calling for like 30% chance of rain, and of course it rained on us pretty good, so I'm glad I didn't take it, because I didn't want all this to get wet. Plus, I couldn't have put the bonnet on it, and I don't have an air cleaner, so I didn't want to fill I didn't want to mess with trying to cover the car and everything. So But, you know, if I put this on here earlier, I might have been able to figure this out without having to do as much to sort out the inner framework. But hey, you know, we'll adjust it, we'll keep on moving forward, and we'll get what we want out of it. All right, so we'll take a quick walk around here of what we've got right now so you guys can see what it looks like at the moment. I think most of the improvements that I made are actually improving it. We got some minor tweaks here and there, and I think we'll be good to go. Let me know in the comments below if you agree. So I have spent 3 days now staring at this thing and playing with different ideas, trying to get all of this to flow correctly, because this was actually made it look like it came in and was dipping in. I wasn't getting a nice line across here, because I want to be able to get a nice line like this across here, and I just wasn't getting that. Which meant I had to do something here different, and I have been playing with a number of different ideas and thinking about it, going back and forth between this and working on other stuff, and coming back to this and going and working on other stuff and coming back to this. And it's taking a little bit of time, but I think I figured something out that's going to be the best compromise I'm going to come up with without a whole different side window, which I don't want a different side window. I don't want to, because if I do a Lexan side window, then I'm going to have to build a frame around the window in order for it to actually seal, or it'll leak all the time, get a lot of air coming through and all that stuff. And I'm sticking with this window. So here's what I've come up with. After messing around with a couple different ideas, there's some of my failed attempts at trying some different things. And what I've got now is this. I've been playing with the seal and figuring out how thick this all needs to be. Once I get the seal in there, I know how it's going to close and how much space I'm going to have. So now I've got this thing set up. So with the seal behind it, this should end up flush with the edge of this. And now this tapers out and brings all this into a nice even line. And then this can be pulled and tacked to the edge of this and adjusted to be the exact same shape as this. And then what I'll do is I'll take a piece of probably aluminum and I'll put it right here to make it a piece of trim, so giving that nice arc to it here. And this ends up the same width as this. So that should be my best compromise of all the different things. Now this stuff isn't exactly square and straight and perfect. There's lots of compromises. A 16th here, 16th there, this minor adjustment here, minor adjustment there, to get it to come together so that we got this. The next thing I'm going to have to do is try to duplicate this on the left-hand side, and then I can come in here and start reworking all this inner structure, which I'll be working on that in the next video.